Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are taking a necessary look into one of the most frustrating and just logistically baffling cases of the last decade
We really are. We're talking about the 2013 disappearance and death of Elisa Lam at the infamous Cecil Hotel.
in Los Angeles. Yeah. And what makes this case so persistent and why we're really diving into these source documents is just the sheer volume of contradictions.
It's all contradictions. The physical evidence, the security failures, the official explanation, they just don't align.
Not at all.
You're left with this deeply unsettling collection of facts around a young woman who basically vanished from a public space.
And was then found in a place that should have been, well, physically inaccessible.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's unpack this. We're setting the scene. Los Angeles, January 2013. Our subject is Elisa Lam, a 21-year-old Canadian university student.
And from everything we've read, she was intelligent, very introspective. She loved to travel alone.
Right, and she shared a lot of that online. Her search for meaning, her thoughts. It was all out there.
And the context here is absolutely vital. She checked into the Cecil Hotel. I mean, this is a building already burdened by decades of just gruesome history.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking documented deaths, violent crimes, high-profile disappearances. All of this happened long before Elisa Lam even arrived.
So that historical shadow isn't just color for the story. It's an immediate, verifiable factor in the building's whole atmosphere. And its security record.
Or lack thereof.
Right. So the mission for this deep dive really is to try and reconcile the crucial conflicting details. The vanishing, the incredibly suspicious surveillance footage, and the unbelievable circumstances of the discovery.
And the core question just hangs over everything. How does a person end up dead in a location that's almost impossible to reach?
Especially when the official ruling points to an accident.
Well, let's jump straight into the timeline. Elisa checked into the Cecil Hotel at the end of January 2013. She vanished on the 31st.
And this wasn't a case of a solo traveler just losing contact for a week or something. The alarm was immediate.
Because her parents were in daily contact with her.
Daily. Exactly. So when she failed to check out as planned, and her phone just went silent, they knew. They notified the police right away.
That speed tells you everything you need to know about how out of character this was for her.
So the initial police response, it gave them clues that, well, in hindsight, were highly suggestive.
They did searches, they brought in scent dogs.
And the detail about that dog search is fascinating. The dogs traced her scent very clearly to a window that led out onto the fire escape.
A crucial access point.
Right. And then nothing. The trail just went cold. The scent ended right there.
And that early clue, the fact that the scent trail just terminates at the fire escape, it directly suggests she went outside the building.
Which would be the logical way to get to the roof.
You'd have to use those fire escapes, potentially access the roof platform from there. That movement is so critical because it immediately contradicts any idea that she was just, trapped somewhere inside the main hotel.
Days turn into weeks. The case becomes national news, but only after the police make a decision that would just redefine the entire mystery.
They released the elevator footage.
The now infamous elevator surveillance footage. And for anyone who's only seen the quick clips online, we have to stop and analyze the context of this recording. This is where the evidence itself starts to crumble.
Absolutely. The sources describe her frantic actions. She's pressing multiple buttons, stepping in and out. She looks like she's hiding.
But then you get to the most critical observation from the investigators.
The video had been edited.
Yes. That's where you have to shift focus. It's not just about her apparent panic, it's about the data. Investigators noted that time had been removed from the footage.
And the police later suggested, well, maybe the hotel's security system was just glitchy, or it automatically cuts for inactivity.
Which, I mean, that explanation alone raises massive transparency issues, right?
Precisely. If we're really doing a deep dive, the implication of that edit is far more important than her gestures. This is a key piece of evidence showing the last known moments of a missing person.
And it's officially acknowledged to have been altered.
Intentionally or not, it doesn't matter. Every theory after that point, accidental, suicidal, homicidal, it's all permanently tainted by that vacuum of time. What happened in the missing minutes?
And this detail forces us to look closer at her movements. I mean, while some sources focus on a struggle or her trying to evade someone.
The internal files also had to consider her known mental health history.
Right. The sources are clear on this. We know Elisa Lam had a documented diagnosis of bipolar disorder.
And the official ruling leans heavily on that fact.
Yeah.
So if you use that lens, her frantic behavior, pressing all the buttons, gesturing to someone unseen.
Authorities could interpret that as a manifestation of a manic or psychotic episode.
Potentially, yes.
But doesn't that just immediately complicate the whole narrative? If the official ruling is going to point towards an accident driven by a mental health episode, shouldn't the first step be to dismiss the unseen threat as a delusion?
It should.
So how do investigators square that possibility with the fact that the video was edited? An edit that suggests someone or something was being concealed.
That is the core conflict. The evidence is asking us to believe two things at once: a vulnerable person acting erratically, and a compromised security record that fails to account for her movements. The official story requires you to just ignore the external problems in favor of the internal psychological explanation.
Okay, let's transition now from the digital evidence to the physical scene, the absolute horror of the discovery.
And the catalyst for finding her body didn't even come from the police search, which is a huge security failure right there.
No, it came from the guests. Complaints from hotel guests.
Can you even imagine? Guests complained of really low water pressure, but more disturbingly, black, foul-tasting water coming out of their taps.
That's the detail that forced maintenance to go check the water supply on the roof.
So they send workers up to the roof to check these huge water tanks that supplied the whole hotel. And there, inside one of the 4 large sealed cisterns, they found Elisa Lam's body.
The details of that scene have to be analyzed forensically because they just completely undermine any theory of a simple accident.
Let's start with just the logistics of getting up there. The roof was supposed to be secured.
Sources that detail the hotel's layout confirm it. To get to the roof, staff had to pass through locked doors, some with alarms, or
climb the exterior fire escape, the same one where the dogs lost her scent.
And even then, the water tanks themselves are on these heavy concrete blocks several feet off the roof level.
So to even look inside one, you'd need to climb a fixed, maybe 10 to 15-foot ladder just to get to the top.
And the tanks are massive, about 8 feet wide and 4 feet taller than she was. The opening on top is only about 18 inches wide.
Right, so she would have to navigate locked security, climb that ladder, and then the lid, the tank lid.
Which are not light. These things are commercial grade, 30, 40 pounds. They're designed to stay put.
And here's a critical contradiction. The maintenance worker who found her, he reported that the lid to that specific tank was found open.
But later accounts from other staff conflicted on this. Some suggested the worker had to pry it open himself.
That contradiction, open or secured, is everything. It changes the entire equation.
It really does. If she was acting alone in a manic state, she'd have to get to the roof, climb the ladder, move a 30-pound lid, and then somehow slide down through an 18-inch hole.
And she was found naked, with her clothes floating beside her. No signs of struggle on the tank itself.
If that lid was already open, it suggests someone else was there. Prior access.
And if it was closed, it's almost physically impossible for a distressed person to move it and then somehow close it from the inside. The whole thing is why this case just remains so open to interpretation.
So after the discovery, the investigation moves pretty quickly to a conclusion.
The official verdict was accidental drowning, with bipolar disorder cited as a major contributing factor.
And that verdict was met with immediate skepticism, especially from her family.
The sources are really clear on their disbelief, their frustration with the lack of any logical explanation.
Their concerns were so specific, too. They focused on the security failures. How could staff miss her for weeks, especially after the dogs led them right to the roof access?
They pointed directly at the failure of the hotel's security to monitor or even secure a restricted area.
And her friends backed this up. They said, while she was vulnerable, she was not suicidal.
They believed she was trying to avoid danger, that she was scared of being pursued, not actively trying to harm herself in a water tank.
Let's talk about the forensic contradictions in the reports for a second. The autopsy found no physical trauma, no defensive wounds.
Which, on the surface, would support the accidental ruling.
But the contradiction is still the location. A lack of defensive wounds is just one piece. The means of getting into that specific, secured, highly challenging environment. That's the piece the official conclusion just never explains.
And when you connect all this, it just explains why the vacuum of facts gets filled by all these theories. We have to remind everyone, no suspects were ever charged. The police never officially named anyone.
But the environment itself was just ripe for trouble. Let's look at the idea she met someone at the Cecil.
I mean, the Cecil was basically a transient community. You had long-term residents, drug users, criminal activity all mixed in with tourists like Elisa.
So that theory suggests misplaced trust, or maybe a criminal encounter that led to a struggle, and her body was moved to the tank to hide it.
And the edited elevator footage just fuels that idea.
Okay, theory two, a stalker, or a romantic fixation. The sources note she interacted with strangers. She shared a lot online.
This theory says someone got obsessed, followed her, and targeted her at the one place known for its, let's be honest, its chaos and lax security.
And then there's the third theory, the one that gained the most traction because of all the physical evidence, the cover-up.
And this one focuses entirely on the sequence of institutional failures and all the inconsistent evidence that was given to the public.
This is where those specific details come back to haunt the official story. Why was the footage altered? Why were the timelines for the roof searches so vague?
And critically, why were the details about security, the locked doors, the alarms, the status of that heavy tank lid, why were they never consistently explained?
The ambiguity suggests, at the very least, that the Cecil Hotel was operating under catastrophic security failure. I mean, bordering on negligence.
At worst, the inconsistencies around the tank and the altered video imply that key evidence was deliberately obscured. Managed, maybe, to avoid culpability?
So what does this all mean for us? We've covered the facts that just refuse to align. A vulnerable young woman, a silent roof that required real effort to reach.
A massive water tank with an entry method that defies a simple ruling, and an official verdict that just fails to explain the physical circumstances.
It just remains this profound mystery. The physical evidence directly contradicts the psychological explanation from the authorities.
Was it a perfect storm of a tragic mental health crisis meeting abysmal hotel security? Or did someone use the chaos of the Cecil to carry out an act that required total secrecy, leaving behind this trail of impossible puzzles?
Her case is such a stark reminder of how quickly a private journey can become a public obsession built entirely on gaps and contradictions. It really highlights the vulnerability of travelers who are just relying on what look like standard security measures.
And that leads us to our final provocative thought for you to consider. Given this specific evidence, the Cecil Hotel's documented history of crime and violence, and the critical security failures around that roof, how much responsibility does a facility with such a notorious past truly bear when the unexplained happens within its poorly secured walls?
Is the location just a coincidence, or is the environment itself a dangerous facilitator? That's the question you're left to mull over.
Please do us a favor by pressing the subscribe button and also like and leave your thoughts on the comment section.